We're with Gemma right now in base camp Berlin, and we are gonna go to tell you more about her yoga program. This program that Gemma is doing in Berlin right now is to help people who want to connect with their bodies. So what exactly are you doing on your classes? What's your profession? And
I specialize in yoga programs for survivors of trauma. So specifically, I work with anyone who has experienced any type of trauma, so from violence and abuse in childhood, sexual assault, and then I'm also exploring a little bit more people who have a disconnection from their body, so people living with eating disorders and maybe anxiety and depression as well.
And how to recognize that you are like not connected to your body if you didn't know that before.
So this is a really big question, and I guess the first thing to say is that it's completely different for everyone. So we need to acknowledge that everyone's relationship with their body is different. But I think a good way to maybe understand this is if we think about how we're born. When we're born, we are born embodied. We are born in our body. We don't have language to communicate our needs. So when we are hungry, we cry. When we need to be changed, we cry. We communicate through what's happening in our body. We interact with the world based on our body sensations. And various things can happen that start to create or increase a disconnect from our body. And one of them is, let's talk a little bit about childhood trauma. Because people who experience trauma in childhood can develop mechanisms to keep themselves safe, to protect themselves, and one of those is to disconnect from your body. So actually, if your surroundings are chaotic, if there is violence and abuse around you, one way to keep yourself safe is to disconnect. It's a protective mechanism. And if this happens, you might notice things like a hypersensitivity to physical contact. So really feeling a lot if there is physical contact against your skin is one thing. Another thing is we know that survivors of trauma have difficulty localizing skin contact. So this means, for example, if I touch someone here, they might feel it here. Another disconnect from your body could be an inability to identify feelings in your body, including things like hunger. Maybe you don't notice that you're hungry, or maybe you don't notice when you're full. So this is basically the words of a participant from one of these programs that ran in the US. She responded to the program by saying, "With yoga, I reclaimed my body. That is a gift because I so hated my body. Or I claimed it, not reclaimed, because I was so young." So this is the idea of childhood. It was a long process to consider myself not an outline. I think yoga helped define me. Just inhabiting my own skin is a major step forward. Yoga helped for me not to be just an outline, to actually have this body inside of my skin. Is just such a powerful idea, and that's this idea of embodiment.
It should be a big phenomenon for people who did never feel like connected with their body.
I mean, this woman says it was a major step forward, and it can be a scary step forward.
Yeah, we have been talking when we met the first time that I shared with you that I started to feel my emotions in my body like a few months ago and on different parts, and before that I didn't know that. And I just, as a person with eating disorders, I just thought I'm hungry or something, even I was like scared.
Well, when we're connected with our bodies, we are able to then interact with the world around us based on our needs, which is huge. So I think there's another story from the trauma center in the US. At the end of this program that the women attended, one of the women came up to the therapist and said to her, "You know, I went to the supermarket and I knew what I wanted to buy. And if we kind of break this apart, we can understand that what this means is, firstly, she was able to identify that she was hungry, and then she was able to use those sensations to decide what she wanted to do.
And it's like it has like impact on those easy, simple things in your life that makes your whole life feeling better. It's improving the quality of your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we can argue that to some extent we all are disconnected from our bodies, and it's on a spectrum. Sure, like some of us maybe a little bit, some of us really disconnected, but absolutely, when we reconnect, when we can respond to what our body is communicating with us, we can increase our quality of life for sure, but also we can have our needs met. I mean, think about our body sensations are the first messages that our brain receives about our needs and maybe when something needs to change. For example, when you place your hand on a hot stove, the sensations, if you feel the sensations, your response, without even your cognition clicking in, you withdraw your hand. Yeah, but we need the sensations to be able to respond in a way that is protecting our body.
How looks the work with the body exactly?
It's yoga. It's based on hatha yoga, so traditional hatha yoga forms, and we're using hatha yoga forms as an opportunity for a present moment experience centered on the body. And basically what this means is, from the outside, so imagine you can't hear any of the language, it maybe looks like a yoga class, except that probably in a group everyone's doing something different. Oh. And the reason for that is because we invite the participants to choose what they want to do with their bodies. The idea is we use hatha yoga forms, but there's no need to get something right.
It's like in life.
It's like in life. The important thing with these classes is that, and this plays a role in that ability to choose and have control of your own body, is that we never use physical assists. So I will never touch the participant's body for any reason.
Study, for example, normal yoga classes in FitX or something. Then I'm also stressed that they will come and they will come to me and touch me and say, no, do that this way. And then I'm just like not thinking about feeling better, but about doing it in the right way. Yeah. And is it, for example, possible that if you touch a person in a place that has been abused, she will remind about it, or it will like
too, yeah.
So how is it to feel a change after having a better relationship with your body, after connecting to this again? What's the difference?
So I think some of the things we mentioned before, this increasing quality of life, ability to identify, like you said, emotions in your body, but also things like hunger, feeling full. I think that's all part of it. But also another one of the participants, I think, answers this question better than I ever could. And she said that I just really suddenly got the idea that I have a body and that I have control over it. I am the one that decides that what my body does or doesn't do. So I think that firstly, you have a body, you can respond to the sensations in your body, and what's really important here is that you have some control back, you have some power back in your life, because a trauma dynamic is fundamentally a relationship where you have no power or control over the situation. Okay. And maybe you can, I don't know if you can share if that's a similar experience for people living with eating disorders.
Yes, if you invite someone to your classes, you hear usually a lot of excuses. How are you answering those questions? Okay?
If the question is, or if the concern is it's not for me, you have that choice. Maybe it's not for you either. I mean, this is one of many body-based therapies for addressing trauma and for working with sensations in the body and reconnecting to this idea of embodiment. I think in terms of I don't have time, I think maybe we need to understand that recovery takes time and commitment. And maybe it's not the right time then.
If you don't have time for yourself, then for what else you should have time?